hot on the campaign trail for Mr. Trump. Vivek, welcome to the show. I want to talk to you a couple things, Vivek. I love to talk issues with you, not just politics. The first is the double progressive failure, not only the invasion of these illegal immigrants, many of whom are kidnappers, killers, terrorists, spies, whatever, but also the second part of this awful story is the fact that New York as a sanctuary city and Alvin Bragg as a Soros prosecutor let this killer go. So he goes back down, he comes in illegally, goes to New York illegally, commits crimes in New York, he's let out of jail in New York, comes down to Georgia, and then winds up killing this beautiful young woman. I mean, this is the worst of the worst. I don't know if this story is bottomed or not, Vivek, but this has to change big time.
Look, it's a basic test of common sense, Larry. A nation without borders is not a nation. And it is not the cruel thing to hold these people back. That is not compassion. That is actually common sense. And that's what we need to revive in this country, is the basic idea that your first act of entering this country cannot break the law. And if your first act of entering this country is breaking the law, then it's no surprise that those people break the law even further when they're already in this nation. That's not racist. That's not xenophobic. And I can tell you, I'm the kid of legal immigrants to this country, Larry. That's personal to me. You have countless people trying to do this the right way. We are now rewarding all of the people who are doing it the wrong way. And I do think that this is going to be a key issue at the ballot box this November. I'm seeing that traveling this country. I was in Michigan last night. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, or independent. This is not what you want to see our nation become. And I think that's going to drive people out to the polls in droves this November. And I think that's going to lead us to success.
Let me just follow up on that. From Mr. Trump's MAGA circular that he sends out, which has now been widely quoted, when I am your president, we will immediately seal the border, stop the invasion. And here's the other one, Vivek, so important. And on day one, we will begin the largest deportation operation of illegal criminals in American history. And then he goes on to say, may God bless Laken Riley and her family. Our prayers are with you. The deportation side, this harks back to something Eisenhower did many, many, many years ago. I don't know whether you've spoken to President Trump about this or not. That will be a tall order, a worthwhile one for sure, Vivek, but a tall order. How do you see that?
First is it starts with common sense, Larry. If we've had the largest influx of illegal mass migration into our country in American history, then it makes sense. By definition, we have to have the largest mass deportation in American history as well. Now, there are legal tools already available to the federal government. Take 287G. That's a provision in the law that says that the Department of Homeland Security and ICE can deputize local law enforcement to actually serve their warrants. Historically, the objection was there's only 6,000 ICE agents. There's millions now of illegal migrants. About 12 million will have crossed under Biden's tenure. How could you solve that? There's 1 million local law enforcement standing at the ready. So that's just one example, Larry, of existing tools in the legal toolbox. We don't even really need new laws to do this. What we really need is a new president to enforce the laws that are already on the books. And so I think that's what it's going to take, a president with a spine. Yes, new laws can make a difference, and I do think there are areas for Congress to step up. But this idea that a mass deportation is somehow going to be inhumane, no, forget about that. Let's start with people who have entered the country illegally in the last couple of years. Use the existing laws. Say that we're going to do it as humanely and as respectfully as possible. But if we're a nation founded on the rule of law, then we have to be a nation that enforces the laws that are already on the books. And I do think they're going to try to paint President Trump in some kind of wrong light when he tries to do this. But we got to understand this is a moral case for the rule of law itself. And the very people who the left would purport to help are the ones who are actually being hurt by many of these policies.
And I think the country will be with him on this, Vivek. You know, I mean, just for all these, this horrible tragedy of this, you know, deceased young woman from Georgia, I think the country will be with him. And I wish we could find a way to go after these sanctuary cities. I mean, deny them federal funds. I'm not sure. I haven't thought it through. But look, the blood of this woman is on Joe Biden's hands for his open border policies, but the blood of this woman, unfortunately, is on the hands of New Yorkers. Alvin Bragg, for sure, Eric Adams, for sure, Governor Hochul. Any of these sanctuary cities that let these criminals come in and are immediately released. to go out and recommit crimes or sell drugs or kill people or whatever. There's got to be something we can do here. So far, we're just taking it. We're not doing anything. But somehow there's got to be a plan to stop these sanctuary cities and releasing all these illegal immigrant criminals and murderers.
So basic steps, let's just go in order here. First, not only build the wall, complete the wall. Move our own military to our own southern border. Stop federal funding. Let's start with, we'll get to the sanctuary cities in a second. No more federal funding for Central America until each of those countries has blockaded their own border all the way through the Darien Pass, where you have effectively migrants flowing from Venezuela to the southern border of Texas. Then you come to our own homeland here. Stop every last dime of federal funding for those so-called sanctuary cities until they're also enforcing the rule of law. And then, Larry, this is another one where we can use existing laws in the Constitution as it already exists to say that birthright citizenship does not actually apply to the kids of illegals. The best border policies of all are to eliminate the incentives to be here illegally in the first place. And if we end that federal funding to sanctuary cities and we end those other incentives, up to and including birthright citizenship for the kids of illegals to whom the 14th Amendment's first words do not apply, then I think we're going to be well on our way to solving this border crisis. This is solvable. We don't need new laws. We need a new president. And I think that's what makes probably this the most vital election issue in November. And I do think it's going to be what leads us to victory.
Which brings me to the other point I wanted to chew on with you, Vivek, and that is this realignment that's going on. You know, everybody's looking at the world, Republicans, Democrats, and independents. Will Trump get the independents? Will Trump get the Haley voters? But I raised in my riff just to put something else on the table besides this horrible news about this late young woman's death. You know, Larry Lindsay's article, you probably know Larry, the people for Trump, farmers, truckers, entrepreneurs, that's you, Vivek, entrepreneurs, mechanics, and construction workers. This is a completely different coalition. And you can add to that now African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, too. This is a completely different realignment. The wealthy rich are for Biden. They're the elites. But the ordinary working folks and the creative people, the brand new money, the new companies, they're for Trump. Now, I don't think the world sees the prism of this election through this new lens, but I say there's a new lens coming. What do you think?
Look, I think there's an opportunity for a realignment here like we saw with the Reagan landslide of 1980 and again in 1984. And I think that's a special opportunity we have ahead of us in 2024 where we got to make this not just about Biden's failures, but what do we actually stand for as a Republican Party? We stand for the rule of law. We stand for the pursuit of excellence. Then every one of those entrepreneurs, and I'll tell you, truckers are entrepreneurs too. Every one of those entrepreneurs can achieve the maximum of their own potential with their own hard work without apologizing for their success. President Trump said it well. You know what our vengeance will be? Success will be our vengeance. And I think with that message, I think we bring people along from the inner city to rural communities, black to white. America First, I think, is bigger than just the historical Republican Party. And so I do see that opportunity, Larry. It's not going to happen automatically. I do think there's a complicated path ahead. I think it's unlikely. Personally, I believe that Biden's even going to be the nominee. But on the other side of those traps that have been laid, I do see an opportunity this year to, dare I say it, unite this country. Yes. And I do think that Donald Trump with the America First movement has the best potential to do that. And I'm going to be helpful in any way I can to make that happen. You know, Vivek, just the last 30 seconds, that's exactly right. I think these pundits really underestimate the unifying message of success. As Trump's now, he's been saying this regularly, you know, my best revenge is going to be success. He's going to institute new policies. He's going to drain the swamp. He's going to break down these elites who have been milking us all these years. He's going to give us some law and order and make it safe for a change. That's a unifying message. And that's going to blow up all the polling models, Vivek. And by the way, you're my favorite entrepreneur, so give me a last entrepreneurial answer. Look, what do entrepreneurs say? You get ahead with your own hard work in this country. Yes. The sky's the limit to what you can achieve. And whatever your God-given gifts are, you can achieve the maximum of your potential in the United States of America. That is Trump's message. It was Trump's reality during the first term. And mark my words, Larry, I think the second term is going to make that first term even pale in comparison to the impact it has on this country. And so that's what I see ahead. I think Trump will actually be the guy to unite this country and revive who we are. And I'm hopeful that's exactly what we're going to see on the other side in November.
Yeah, you got it. As my old boss Reagan used to say, the best is yet to come. But Trump says the same thing, and you say the same thing, and I say the same thing. Optimism is a winner. Vivek Ramaswamy, you're wonderful. Thank you for giving us all this time. We appreciate it.